Hi friends! Today we're going to be talking about a subject that is very close to my heart, and that is how to make friends as an adult. I did a 30-day experiment to see if I could make friends, and it went so well that I decided to make a video about it. I'm going to share 12 tips that I have found helpful to create friendships and to hang out with more people, and it's been kind of a lifelong pursuit that I have struggled with. And so I want to share what I can to get you some more friends if that's what you're looking for. At the beginning of this year, I made a goal to make more friends. I had never really set goals in my life, and so I made a vision board for my dream life. And on the vision board, I have a little picture of friends crafting together because I wanted to not only make friends, but also make friends that I wanted to spend time with doing activities that I like to do, including crafting. When I made this goal, I had a dream that I would hopefully make friends within a year and that I would be able to maybe make a video about it a year later. But I actually achieved my goal within a month, which was unbelievable. And so instead of waiting a full year, I wanted to share about it as soon as possible. I have talked about my struggles with making friends as an adult on my Instagram, and it's resonated with a lot of you. And so I wanted to get this information out there as soon as possible so that if you want to make friends, you can start working on these things. So my goal was to hang out with one friend once a month. And if you have a lot of friends, you're probably like, that's pathetic. One friend once a month, that's pretty lame. But if you don't have any friends, or if you're a very introverted person, it's actually quite a bit of friends. And I would consider myself half and half introvert and extroverted, but hanging out with friends, that's a lot for me. So I actually wrote it down and made it a goal for myself. And in the month of January, I hung out with so many people on accident, I couldn't even believe it. And it was because I followed these tips that I'm going to share. I'm sure everyone has their own reasons why they don't have friends. I'll just share mine. I think it's because all of my friends that I had in high school, they all went off to college, and I did not. I did not go to college, and I just went right to work, and I tried to become friends with my coworkers, and it just didn't work out because I was young and I'd switch jobs all the times, and so I ended up really not having any long-lasting friends. I've had this kind of nagging, lonely feeling for, I don't know, maybe the past 3 years or so. So I say that I've been doing this for 30 days, and I've been actively pursuing this goal for 30 days. But I would say over the past 3 years, I have lightly been trying to make friends, and I've been learning from my mistakes along the way. So this is a big collection of all the things that I've tried that have worked for me and haven't worked for me. I went through some breakups, and when you go through breakups, it can be really hard. And going through friend breakups is also incredibly hard, and nobody talks about it. And it can be just as terrible as a relationship breakup. It can be even worse depending on how close you were. And so we're also going to talk about how making friends is quite similar to dating, and it's okay if you take it just as seriously as dating someone. The last thing I'm going to say before we start getting on with the tips is that this is my personal experience and the things that have worked for me. And so I'm not talking about maybe your story. And so I can be quite blunt with myself, identifying the things that I don't like about myself and that I'm trying to change. And so I'm talking about myself. I'm not talking about you. And so please don't feel like I'm attacking you or I'm trying to get you to do stuff if you're not ready. I heavily wanted to push myself to change as a person. And if you're not feeling that right now, then that's totally okay. You can take whatever I say with a grain of salt. But if you are looking to radically change, or if you want to try a few things, this video should hopefully be helpful. I'm going to do easier things, then I'm also going to do kind of challenging and radical things that will make you a different person. Take with it what you will, but this is just my personal story. Tip number one, literally make a list of your friends, your acquaintances, people you've hung out with in the past few years. the coworkers you lost touch with because you left a job, people that you don't see anymore. I want you to write a list down. Right after I made that goal for myself of hanging out with one person a month, I took my phone out in my notes app and I wrote down people that I could consider a friend. I have this thing where I'll watch, like, Harry Potter is a great example, or Lord of the Rings, and I'll see these incredible friendships on film, and I always recycle this feeling and this thought of, I don't have friends like that. I will never have a friend like Ron, Hermione, and Harry. And one, that's a fictional story. That's not real. And so I don't know why I put that expectation on myself. And two, I do have friends. I don't know why I have this belief that I never hang out with people. When I actually sat down and thought about who I've hung out with over the past few years, I do have people that want to spend time with me. But it took me writing it down and really thinking about who considers me a friend and who I like to spend time with to actually think of that I do have friends. And so I want you to write that down. I want you to write down people that maybe you've lost touch with, that you do like speaking with. Maybe maybe you just got married, maybe you're pursuing a career and you've been blowing people off. I want you to write down anybody that you can think of. Also, if you have people that you're like, man, I used to hang out with them all the time 5 years ago, but we've lost touch, write them down because you enjoyed hanging out with them, and so they're worth being on the list. You should also write down, and I'll talk about this later, you should write down family members that you consider friends as well. If you've really thought about all the people that you've spent time with and you don't have anyone to write on your list, I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to write my name on your list. My name's Emily, and you and I are friends. I always say the beginning and end of my videos, hi friends, bye friends, and that's on purpose because we are friends. I want anyone that watches my video to feel like they're my friend, and we are. So write my name down. You are not alone. I don't ever want you to feel like you don't have a friend. But I hope that when this video is done, you will be able to have some actionable steps so that you will have 1, 2 more friends to put on that list. I gotta have some of my tea. It's appropriate because the next step is kind of a little like spilling the tea, I guess. It's going to be one of the blunt tips that I have, and that's going to be make sure that you look inward and decide what friends you want going forward into your future. Just because you might feel like you don't have friends, it doesn't mean you have to hang out with people that ask to hang out with you and you don't want to. If they make you feel bad, or if you just don't like the way that you are around them, don't hang out with them. Give yourself the permission to not spend time with them, or I'm giving you the permission. Don't spend time with those people if you don't want to. So that can go for more like extreme things, like if you have friends that are always causing drama, if they complain a lot, if they talk over you, if they don't ask you about your life. Those type of people are not serving you. They're not making your life better. And so just cut them out. Who cares? If they're not your responsibility, this is your life, and make sure that you have friends that make you feel good. This can also go for much smaller things. So I'm going to tell a story. I have, like I said, I've been trying to pursue making friends slowly over time. And so a few years ago, I started going to swing dancing once a week in Grand Rapids, which is about 30 minutes from where I live. And the swing dancing was awesome. I really enjoyed it, and I did make a lot of friends. And so I had those friends for a few years, and when I was hanging out with them, I started to realize that I didn't feel like I was growing as a person. And the reason why is because there was a large age gap between us. They were like 7 years, 9 years younger than me, and I'm like 30 years old. And so they were around like, 21, 23. And so we're at different points just in our life. And they were great people, but I did feel like I wasn't maturing. If anything, I was like regressing back to how I was when I was younger. And I realized I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have friends that were more around my age that would help me grow as a person. And so I slowly stopped hanging out with them as much and started to pursue hanging out with people that were more my age and that would push me to become a better person. but you can also identify things about yourself that you want to find in other friends. So I am bisexual, and so I live in a very conservative, straight city, and there's not a lot of people that are LGBTQ around me. And I wanted to make sure that I found people that identified as LGBTQ to make me feel seen. And I still have lots of straight friends, but there's something different about having a friend that is experiencing the same type of circumstances that you are. And so that can apply to a lot of things, like if you're a parent, if you just got married and you want to have friends that you can go on double dates with and have dinner parties with. But that can apply to lots of different things in your life. If there's something about you and you want to find people that are similar to you, that's awesome. Try to pursue those people and figure out where they are. The other side of the coin is if you are surrounded with people that are just like you and you're sick of it, you want to find people that are different than you so that you can see other perspectives and grow and change as a person. That's awesome. I admire that. And you can do that also. So I just identify what you're looking for in a friend and get rid of anybody that doesn't serve that and decide that you're going to pursue those types of people. Tip number 3 is when things are going to start getting real. It is to just ask. You got to ask people if they want to be friends with you. And I know that that sounds really scary. If you're thinking to yourself, I'm bad at making friends, I can't make friends, I'm introverted, I'm going to stop you right there, because those are the thoughts that I had. All those are limiting beliefs that I would say to myself. And I would think that I'm introverted, there's no way I can get out there and do that. I've obviously been terrible at making friends because I don't have any. Those are just things that make me feel bad about myself and make me feel like I'm a loser. And I'm not a loser. And neither are you. But if you think that your perfect bestie is just going to fall out of the sky with no effort, I don't think that that's true. You do have to put in effort, and that effort is asking. So some examples are, I have invited, I would guess probably in the past month, 5 different people for coffee, and very few of them has said yes. And that is totally okay, and we're going to talk about that later, but you've got to ask people. You've got to put it out there. You can do this virtually if you've got like Instagram friends, if you have like video game friends, like through Discord. You can ask them that way if they want to have a Zoom call, if you've got like a pen pal, something like that. You can also ask them in person. And so I'm going to tell the most recent story that I have where I asked a random person at Aldi if they wanted to be my friend. I was grocery shopping and I was about to put my groceries away, and there was a girl that looked to be about my age, and she was putting her groceries away too, and we started talking at the same time, complimenting each other. She complimented my scarf, which I had crocheted myself, and I complimented her coat, which was super cute. And we had a great time just with that little interaction. Right away, I could identify certain things about her that I liked. One, she appeared to be my age, which is something that I wanted in a friend. She was female, which is another thing that I wanted in a friend moving forward. She also didn't have a kid with her, and judge me if you want, but something that I'm looking for is friends that are around my age that don't have kids, because, you know, we can talk about our pursuits that aren't related to kids. I do have mom friends. I have no problem with that, but that is something that I'm looking for. And 4, most important, she had a great vibe. We had a similar energy. She seemed like a humble, nice person. She freely gave out a compliment. I liked that about her. And she started reeling her card away, and I was so sad that I didn't like ask her if she wanted to be friends. So I promised myself if I saw her later out in the parking lot or something, I would ask her. And I did run into her again when we were putting our carts back. So thank you, Aldi, for making us put our carts back to get a quarterback. But anyway, I straight up asked her, "Do you need a friend?" And she said, "Yeah." And she whipped her phone out and we exchanged phone numbers. And was it awkward and weird? Yes. Was it still awesome and makes an incredible story? Yes. We started texting, and then she asked me if I wanted to get coffee, which was really cool. We had an amazing time, and we're going to do candle making in the future, and I'm actually hanging out with her later tonight. We're going to a vintage event. None of that would have happened if I didn't ask for her number in the Aldi parking lot. Like you give out your number when you're trying to date somebody. You just got to put yourself out there. Nobody likes rejection. It is the worst feeling if someone doesn't want to spend time with you. But if you want to make friends, you've got to deal with it. It's the same with dating. And putting yourself out there, you are making yourself vulnerable to rejection. But especially when it comes to making friends, you've got to let it go. What is that phrase? Like water off the back of a duck, something like that. That's what it's got to be. You just got to let rejection slide away from you and you don't even think about it. Like I said, I asked a lot of people if they wanted to get coffee, and some people blatantly blew me off. Some people like nicely blew me off and said they were busy. And did I let it bother me? It bothered me a teeny bit, but then instantly I'm like, it shouldn't bother me because they might be busy. They might be going through a really hard time. They might have been going through a big life event. They could also be doing the exact same thing that we're doing, which is thinking about the types of friends we want. And maybe I'm not that type of friend. Maybe they're mom friends and they want to pursue finding friends that have kids. I don't have kids. That's not personal against me, and so I shouldn't be upset about it. Maybe they're prioritizing their relationship or their family more than making friends, and that's totally okay. And so if you are rejected, it's no big deal. Also, if you ask to be friends with a stranger and they say no, who cares? You will never see them again. If Aldi girl rejected me and said, that's weird, no thanks, who cares? It really doesn't matter. Maybe I'll run into her again at Aldi and I'll just laugh at myself because it was a ridiculous thing that I did in the pursuit of making friends. But what would be much worse is if I didn't even do it, if I didn't ask her to be my friend, and then I lost out on the opportunity of having a good time at a coffee shop and potentially making a lifelong friend. Let yourself feel the rejection, but don't take it too seriously and just keep trying. Tip number 5 is one that I have struggled with a lot, and it is don't put all your eggs in one basket, whether that is for friendships, but also don't just pursue romantic relationships and neglect your friendships. So I learned that because I was married and I went through a divorce. And I've also been in really long committed relationships that abruptly ended. And they were very, very, very hard for me. And when you are done with that relationship, you realize, oh, I don't really have that big of a support system anymore. And so it's super important that you have friends, even if you're in relationships. Also, if you have just like one best friend, that's awesome. I mean, I think everyone dreams of having, the Samwise Gamgee to their Frodo Baggins. I know I do. And I did have that growing up. But then I also had terrible friend breakups with those best friends, and I lost them forever. And I didn't have other friends to help me through that time. And it was really sad. And I think that that ended up really having an impact on the fact that I don't have friends as an adult. And so as an adult, I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket in a relationship or just in one friend. So I did make Aldi friend girl. That was awesome. I've also reconnected with other people, which I will talk about later. But instead of just saying, oh, I reconnected with one person, I don't need to try anymore. No, this is probably going to be a never ending pursuit for me of finding more friends. And the reason why is because hopefully we don't ever go through friend breakups again. Those are no fun. If you have a friend that's going through a big life event, maybe they're getting married, they're pursuing their career, their priorities are changing, they're having a kid, they're moving away. If any of those things happen, it can be super sad if they're your only friend. But also, you want to be able to respect their boundaries, especially if they have a kid. You want to let them have the space to fall in love with that child and to get a nap every once in a while. And you don't want to feel like they're letting you down because they're not being the friend that they were before. And the best way, in my opinion, to do that is to have a bunch of friends. For instance, I have a friend, he's an engineer, he's incredibly smart, and he just bought a farmhouse, a huge farmhouse, and he's fixing it up with his girlfriend. I think that's so inspiring, and I love that for him. But he's incredibly busy right now because he's focusing on making his house livable for him and his girlfriend. And so it's totally cool, and I'm very happy for him. But because he's so busy, I'm not going to hang out with him right now. And I don't take that personally. Instead, I'm going to go hang out with some of my other friends that I'm trying to pursue. And then whenever he's ready, and maybe his house is fixed up, then we can be friends and hang out more often. I read this really amazing book that I'm going to link below for you to get or get at the library. It's awesome. It's called The Success Principles. And in that book, they talk about a lot of things. And the reason that I did this whole thing in the first place was because I read that book. It encouraged me to do a vision board, all that stuff. But something that it talks about is basically manifesting what you want. But manifesting is more about like keeping your eyes peeled for what you want and searching for those opportunities. Because if you don't identify, hey, I'm going to make a goal about making friends, you won't be finding opportunities to make friends. And so when you do say, I'm going to make friends, you're going to have these binoculars on looking for friendship opportunities, which is important. So, for example, on Facebook, I still use Facebook sometimes. I remember like 3 years ago, there was a girl that I was coworkers with, and she posted on Facebook, I have no friends. Is there anybody that wants to go hiking with me? And I commented on it and said, sure, I would love to. Nothing happened from that. Why did nothing happen? Well, for one, I didn't really try to make a concrete plan. Two, she didn't really reciprocate a lot, which I think is important in friendship. You want the other person to be reciprocating the amount of action you're putting into. And she didn't really do that. And number three, it could be because she doesn't have any interest in hanging out with me, and I don't take that personally, so no big deal. But fast forward a year later, I had a friend, not really, we hung out one time, and because I was pursuing being friends with people that were LGBTQ, I had joined a women's pride group, and we all hung out at an arcade one time, and she was there. And so I met her one time, and we were friends on Facebook. And on Facebook, she had posted, hey, does anyone want to go to the lake on Friday and go tubing? And I love going to the lake, and I actually didn't have any plans on that Friday, so I told her I wanted to. Was it weird because we'd only basically barely even met one time? Yes. But right away she commented and said, cool, like let's exchange phone numbers so that we can do it. And that was reciprocating what I wanted. And we floated in the lake together. We got to know each other, and we became really great friends. And we are still friends to this day. She is someone that I wrote on my list on my notes app. We hang out maybe, I would guess, 2 to 3 times a year, so it's not a ton. Side note is she has a lot of friends, like a lot of friends. And so I want to say, don't ever assume that someone has too many friends and they're not interested in you, because she does have a lot of friends, but she moved from out of state. This is a new state for her. And so a lot of her friends were left behind. And so she was looking for queer friends in this area. And so don't assume that someone doesn't want to be friends with you. Finding groups is easier to do, especially after you've done the step where you identify the type of people that you're looking for. So personally for me, I knew that I was at one point looking for a lot of LGBTQ friends. And so I started looking for groups. So I joined a PFLAG group, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And so that's for LGBTQ people, but that's also for allies. I also joined a transgender group as an ally, and then I joined the Women's Pride group. I did like 2 of those meetings, and it wasn't a lot of fun, so then I didn't go back. Then other pursuits that I've done is I really want to have crafting friends, and so I went to like a craft meetup. It was a total dud. There were only 4 people there, but hey, at least I tried. You never know if your friend's going to be there. I've also always wanted to learn to dance, so I did that swing dancing group, and there's tons of swing dancing groups all over the place. A great way to find out if there's a group that you're interested is meetup.com, I think is what it is. It is especially good if you live near a relatively big city. So I live in like a mid-sized city, and there's not a lot of great meetup groups on there. But if you live in like Chicago or something, you have so many options for making friends. If you live in a big city, you are very lucky, and you can totally find a group that is specifically for your interests. Maybe you live in a really tiny small town and there's like no resources for you. That's what online and the internet is for. You can join so many different kinds of Discord groups. So like I'm in a Discord group that's for granny girls, and so there's like subsections for like crocheting and stuff like that. But there's all kinds of like book clubs. You can also try to be pen pals. The Instagram vintage community that I'm in is awesome, and people have become lifelong friends through that. If you're into sports, that's very easy to find a sports group. Also, going to church, if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you're religious, that's another great way to meet friends. The point is, try to find events or try to find groups. Also, volunteering is another great way to do stuff. I did the Big Brother, Big Sister program for a while. If you can volunteer in something that you're interested in, like if you love gardening, you can volunteer at community shares and you can help garden and try to make friends that way. So there are different organizations and groups that you can join to try to make friends. I'm going to preface this by saying that if you have family members that don't treat you right, that don't respect your boundaries, I am not telling you to hang out with them. I am obviously a large champion of cutting people out of your life if they don't serve you. So if your family doesn't treat you well, then forget it. Don't speak with them. What I am saying is that if you have a few family members, just one that you love, they respect your boundaries, you have a great relationship, or maybe you like them, but you don't have a great relationship, hang out with them and pursue being friends with them because family can be friends too. I don't have a sister. I'm always jealous of people that have sisters. I feel like they're like a built in friend. But I do have a very wonderful mother and father. And we have not always gotten along 100%. It has, we've had our rocky times, but we have worked very hard to maintain a loving relationship. And so, like, if you watched my most recent thrifting video, I went with my mom. My mom texted me and spontaneously asked me if I wanted to go thrifting with her. And so I decided that I would love to because I want to have a good relationship with my mom. And we have a lot of shared interests. And I also have lunch with my dad frequently. I love hanging out with them. And I think out of all the relationships that I will have in my life, the number one friendship that I will cherish the most memories from will be when I hang out with my family, when I hang out with my parents. And so anytime that I can hang out with my mom and my dad, I will take up that offer because they're wonderful people and someday they will not be around. And so I will be incredibly sad when that happens, but I will have so many wonderful memories with them. Okay, the next tip is to tell all your friends, acquaintances, coworkers, people that you see that you appreciate them and you like spending time with them because you don't know who feels the same way about you and wants to spend more time with you. So, a recent story that I have is I no longer work there, but I used to have a job as a front desk at a chiropractic office. And a new person started that I used to be coworkers with. We used to work together 10 years ago. We're going to call her Katie. And Katie was really close with me. We were friends for quite a while when we worked together, but then we no longer worked together and she ended up having a baby. And so we just lost track of each other. But then she started working at the same place as me. I said to her, I really liked hanging out with you. We had a lot of fun together. And then she started saying that she felt the same way and that she was so excited. She told her mom that we were working together. And like I could tell that it meant a lot to her that we were reconnecting, just like it meant a lot to me too. And so I can't remember who said it first, but I think she did, said we should hang out. And so we have, and it was awesome. So we both have wanted to see each other again. We both remember the good times that we had. And we wouldn't have known that if we didn't openly talk about how much we liked spending time together. And so you never know who's going to actually want to spend more time with you. And so put it out there how much you like them. And even if they don't reciprocate, at least you're complimenting them and telling them how great they are because that's a good thing to do anyway. All right, now we're going to start getting radical. It's time for big changes. So these are things that I actually did after I was going through a bad breakup. And I read an article that told me to just say yes to everything. Obviously, everything that you feel safe to do and able to do. Don't be doing things that make you feel uncomfortable. But the point is to stop making excuses. So like if someone asks you to hang out and you're like, oh, it's past my bedtime. No, go do it. So if you're looking to really change things up, try this. This is what I did when I was struggling through a breakup, and it was awesome. I felt incredibly lonely, and so I made a decision that if someone asked me to do something, I'm just going to do it. And so I ended up going to the Grand Rapids Pride for the very first time. Something that I did was asked if I wanted to go to a fire spinning group thing. It was a meetup and it was at night, which is normally way past my bedtime. And I learned how to spin fire. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. And I made friends. And because I made friends at that fire spinning group, I ended up being invited to my very first Halloween party, which was so fun. And so none of those things would have happened if I had said, no, it's past my bedtime. And so if people ask you to do stuff, push yourself to say yes, even if it feels uncomfortable or if it'll get you out of your comfort zone. That's a good thing. And you might surprise yourself and grow as a person, or you might make a lifelong friend in the process. This was probably the most extreme thing that I've done. I did this one after that terrible breakup. It really pushed me. It was really, really hard for me to do, but I'm glad I did. It was meet a new person every day. Every day. Every day you go out there and you go talk to someone new. And that was a challenge for me. And I guess you could probably do it online as well. But I decided to leave the house and go sit at a coffee shop, and because I worked from home at the time, and so I went and sat at a coffee shop and sat and tried to meet somebody, and it was weird. The very first time I did it, I was just sitting at the coffee shop. I didn't get any work done. I was psyching myself up, trying to pick out the person I was going to meet, and I ended up leaving the coffee shop and not talking to anybody. And I started beating myself up for it. And then I was standing at a crosswalk, and there was a guy next to me who seemed to be about my age. And we ended up walking to the same little park area. I decided, I feel like this is a sign that I'm supposed to go talk to this person. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? He was like, yeah. And so I sat down with him and I just asked him to tell me about his life story. And he ended up telling me about how he met his wife, and it was the cutest story in the world. And it was very comforting because I was going through a breakup at the time, to hear such a heartwarming story about love and how they've been together for so long. And I did this multiple times. I met multiple people, and I didn't make a friend this way. I'll be upfront. But I did hear some really amazing stories, and it was a lot of fun. But you might be able to make some friends this way, or if you're looking to like maybe meet the love of your life, this might be a great way for you to attempt to try to, meet some cute guys or girls or whoever. This is my last tip because I didn't actually do it. This was going to be my last resort if all the things that I did before didn't work, but they did work, so I didn't have to do this one. And so that tip is to create your own friend groups, create your own events, create your own groups for people to meet up. Create a new thing on meetup.com for your local city. Some things that I was considering was creating a Discord group for the vintage community. I was also considering doing like a craft meetup at my local library. I considered starting a book club, but I don't read enough, so it didn't really make much sense. I just wanted to make friends. But I mean, if you love to play beach volleyball, you could totally make a meetup group at your local beach by the volleyball nets. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. I had a friend from high school who started her own like women's hiking group on Facebook, and you can invite people. That's awesome. You can make your own groups and use social media to market it, or use meetup.com. I haven't done this myself, but I might in the future. So if you would like to meet certain people and none of them, you can't figure out where they are, maybe that's because you have to create that group in your community. The last thing I'm going to say is I hope that you find this encouraging and you don't feel defeated. I hope that this makes you want to get up and make some friends somewhere, because you can. And the possibilities are endless as long as you try. And if you try it all, and even if it doesn't work out right away, I am so, so proud of you for trying. That is amazing. And you should be proud of yourself too. You are a wonderful person, and I hope that you will keep pursuing it so that people can meet you and see how wonderful you are. As for me, this worked so well that after my month, the reason why I've decided that I feel like I'm done and it's worked is because I've actually had to turn down hanging out with some people because I still have my own pursuits on my vision board. I have a lot of pursuits for my personal business. And so I have a limited amount of time. And my goal was to hang out with one person a month. And in January, I hung out with way more than that. And I'm like, whoa, I need to like take some time for myself. But I have tons of hangouts scheduled for the next few months, which is great. I'm not saying that like, oh my God, I have a million friends. Look at me. I do think this is going to be a lifelong pursuit for me, and it will always be a challenge, but it is a challenge that I am willing to accept and to pursue because I really want to have a nice collection of friends that I can care for and can care about me. And I hope that you can find that too. Thank you so much for watching. Best of luck. Bye, friends.